Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to our Contingent networking event hosted by Encore. My name's Craig Watson. So I, like quite a few other people here, flew up from Melbourne today, and we probably should be having this at Bondi. The weather is way better here than it is back down south, that's for sure. The other thing I noticed is there are quite a few people here that will be at the ITIS tomorrow night, and not only that, there's probably 7 or 8 finalists in the room, so should have saved ourselves a lot of trouble and just bought the trophies and handed them out here, should I?
We do those now, bro.
Yeah, we should, shouldn't we? If you have any questions during, we'll answer them. Also, there's a lot of Encore people in the room today, so during lunch when we're talking, if you have any questions or want to have a chat, reach out to any of them right now or in the room. But before we do get fed, I'd like to invite Damien to come up and just welcome you on behalf of Encore.
Yeah, thanks Craig, and thank you for volunteering to help us today. He's a fantastic MC and host. So I just wanted to thank everybody here, particularly the clients that we've worked with for so long. Akara, for instance, over 10 years, I think, maybe longer, and it's been a while since we caught up, I think pre-COVID. So thank you to everybody for attending. It is a networking session. It's not a show and tell about Encore. We're just going to share a couple of insights that Gio and I and the team have been working on, and also to thank the people that we have here, our people in particular, who make this organisation such a great organisation, because without them we wouldn't be here today. So enjoy your lunch, and then we'll get back with Craig very shortly.
Okay everyone, we're going to kick off with the panel. If you could just give us your attention. Before we start, I will let you know, even though I've eaten way too much already, the mains are still coming, so there will be mains as well. And we're going to be serving them while we're having the panel, okay? So as we said at the start too, there may be questions. If you've got a question right in the middle of this, pop your hand up. Otherwise at the end, obviously we'll give a bit of time to see whether there's anything from the floor. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Gio, and you're a better person than I am if I can go through your full name there.
Giovanni, Ribudianto.
There you go, you heard it first from the man himself. So, no, Giovanni. So anyway, so Gio's from Allianz, and they've been working with Encore over a period. I'm not going to talk too much about it, I'm going to leave it up to Gio. But before we get to that, Gio, why don't you give us a little bit about your background, mate?
Sure. Afternoon, everyone. I started my career in recruitment in 2008, working for a recruitment agency. Actually working on a contract recruitment desk as well as permanent recruitment desk, primarily for New South Wales Government 007 account actually. Yeah. And then I moved into a recruitment solution provider, working for Manpower. That's when I started working in an MSP managed service solution, working for the Department of Finance Service Innovation account, working on the contingent workforce solution there. And then I moved on to Alexander Munn solution at PwC. And 4 years ago, I joined Allianz to head up the contingent workforce practice. Okay, so you joined Allianz about 4 years ago. So when you were brought in, what were you tasked with? What was you got your position description, you brought into your first meeting, mate, we want you to do this, and we want it now. Sure. The original objective was for me to develop and implement a contingent workforce practice throughout the organisation. But from day one, my role evolved to something more, managing the supplier relationship management, and also vendor management and compliance, risk governance compliance as well for the whole talent acquisition function. Okay, so in terms of challenges when you first got in the role, what were you facing? So talk us through the main challenges in implementing that contingent strategy. So surprisingly, there were no centralized system whatsoever that actually stored critical contractor engagement details. A lot of times when a stakeholder asked me to provide a report of a list of contractors, I had to pull the data from different sources, from our recruitment agency partners actually. So that wasn't sustainable. So the first objective was to come up with a better way of managing our contractor population. And the first agenda item was to implement a standardized process to payroll our direct source contractors. That's when we went out to tender to select a partner for a payroll solution, and that's when we came across Encore. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Damien, while you're standing, talking about challenges in...
I was just going to whack him over the head if you said the wrong thing.
Talking about challenges in the contingent market, at Allianz, they talk about pulling data from different sources and things like that. Are these similar sorts of challenges you see across the market and the people you deal with?
Oh, absolutely. We see this a lot. We get a lot of requests for data, and particularly now on things like wage rates. I was looking this morning at wage rates, and no surprise, but the space that we play in primarily is that high-end contractor, and rates are around about $1,040 average now. But in the first 6 months, it was actually around 1045, so it's just plateaued. Whereas last year we saw a 15% increase, and the contractor vacancies, we track them in the spaces that we're in across all the platforms, and they're down 26%. So I was nervous from a business perspective way back in May about this. So we've seen that real flattening, and I think that's a real challenge for organisations, getting that data so that they can reset. If you're not resetting wages now, you're probably never going to get the opportunity to. So that's one of the things that we're seeing now is finishing contractors up at X and bringing them back in at Y.
Now, real-time visibility was not the only challenge. The other challenges that we have is the process is to manage from timesheet through to invoicing through to cost allocation. There were no standardized processes. Everything was a mess. So we would be using the timesheet platforms of multiple recruitment agencies. They've got their own processes, frequency, how they send us invoices. Invoices were often paid, late, just because once we pay contractors through timesheets, we would receive the invoice 2 weeks later, which we would need to go through another approval process again. So it was a messy process, and just multiple touch points for each task, essentially.
So in the process of bringing in your contingent solution, did you consider all different sorts of models like MSP, VMS, or how did you go through that process?
Sure. So the mandate really, the parameters that we were tasked is streamline the end-to-end processes, automate the invoice processing, and automate the cost allocation management as well. And also, but still at the same time, retain full control in terms of how we administer the sourcing and the management of our contractors. All that, cost effective is the key as well at the same time. So it needs to be cost effective, meaning needs to control.
Yep.
Now we did consider a VMS and also an MSP. So if we were to engage an MSP, the likelihood is we also need to implement a VMS. With the typical total invoice that we process every year for contractor spends, it could cost us between 1 to 2.5 million per year, just if we were to engage a VMS or MSP and VMS. So we realized that we need a bespoke solution that we can actually meet all of our requirements, but at the same time, is really cost effective.
Which is really interesting. I mean, I know obviously you've all been invited here for a nice lunch and everything on Oncore's coin. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what happens there, right? So, but you're saying it's a bespoke solution.
Correct.
So when you were introduced or you found Encore and you had them in, did you feed back to them that, look, what we're seeing in market is not right for us?
Correct.
We're in a bit of a situation where we don't know what the hell we're going to do, and what can you do for us? How did the conversation sort of start with Encore saying, well, we're going to help you with a bespoke solution?
Correct. So one of the main reasons why we are selected to partner with Encore for our payroll solution, the original engagement, was because we knew that Encore owned its own assets, essentially. So what that means is, if we need a partner to expand how we manage contractors, we can actually, get Encore's assistance. So the bespoke solution that we came up with was, by standardizing the timesheet platform for all contractors, regardless which recruitment agency they're from.
So if you have multiple recruitment agencies with contingent labour in Allianz, they all come through this one visibility point.
Exactly right. By implementing that, we can actually solve a lot of problems. We can have real-time visibility in one central point. Like we're talking about contractor numbers, the rate breakdown from payroll, state payroll tax, workers' comp insurance, agency markup. It's all there now. But what's unique about this solution is by having that standardized timesheet platform, we can actually automate the way we process invoices. So we're using a method, as many of you know, as a RCTA, or recipient created tax invoice. So we use that method now. So recruitment agencies, they don't need to issue us invoices anymore. We create invoices on their behalf, or Encore does, essentially.
And it helped. I'm going completely off script now. Sorry. It'd sort of help with workforce planning too, because I deal with a few businesses in what I do, and a lot of the time within contingent workforce, a section or a part of the business doesn't know what the contingent workers in the other part. So someone over here could be finishing a contract that's perfect for someone over here, and they don't even know it internally. They're out of the business and they're gone before you know.
Exactly. That's what our recruitment team actually is tasked to do. One of our roles is to make sure that, if we're aware of a role coming up, a contract role coming up in a different business, and we've got a talent, we can actually discuss with the hiring manager of the outbound contractor, see if we can actually reassign that contractor for that new assignment.
And the interesting thing, I guess, if they're coming from multiple sources, like different agencies, right, or direct, I'll just drop a name because everyone knows. Say it's Hayes or Michael Page, and you've got someone there, and they're finishing up in this part, and then another part of the business takes them on. It's like the agencies are going to be happy too.
Exactly right. So they've got that business continuity for them as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
I've got a comment. One thing that's really powerful, the solution you've got. But I think even more powerful is the ability to target those contingent workers who've done the wrong thing, and their supplier wants to put it back into your business somewhere else. You have a separate team, you can almost say do not recruit because they've done something awful that doesn't suit your culture.
Exactly right. Yeah, definitely good point.
Risk management. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
Question possibly to Dana. New legislation that's being put through Parliament has gone through the upper house. What's the implication to contingent workforce in relation to that? There's some significant changes.
We were just talking about that, Trevor, and we have followed that very closely. So much so that we...
You probably have to talk just a bit louder.
Yeah, so much so that we revised all of our contracts earlier this year. I think the challenge for the space that we play in is going to be what is truly classified as a gig worker who is accepting a role through a platform. Because the legislation as it stands at the moment doesn't have a clear definition as to what is I would say Deliveroo. Are they still around? Probably not. Deliveroo gig worker versus a worker that's working through a platform into a large organisation doing a statement of work. Yeah. So I think there needs to be some cases first before that happens. I'm not an IR expert, but I do follow it very closely. I think the biggest risk is the kind of 6 month, the renewals of contracts, the fixed termers as well. That is a real challenge because we see data that says that there is people been on site for 5 to 7 years as a contractor doing the same job, and stupid mistakes made like providing them a laptop and giving them training, and you're treating them like an employee, but you don't want them to be an employee. So.
I think that some of those people don't want to be employees either. They don't want permanent. They love the fact that they do have flexibility.
They do, and I think that it's a very good point, Gabby. And I think where it will get tested is when they're at the 5-year mark or the 6-year mark, and they get the 7-year itch on, I might get a free kick here on pro rata long service leave.
Well, and
So
they're all over 60.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
don't have their big super.
Yeah. So, so I think that may be a challenge for the high-end workers. Yeah. It's certainly an interesting space. I mean, Trevor, you've been in the space for a long time, and it's almost like going back to the early 90s and the 80s. You know, the pattern bargaining, the collective agreements. You know, you've got organisations like the Labour Hire Authority down in Victoria. Just about everybody in the Labour Hire Authority in Victoria is ex-AWU, AMW or CFMEU, right? And there was the gig worker paper in Victoria as well, the inquiry into gig workers. So I think Victoria is going to be a very tough place to do business over the next 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, but it seems to be going back that way. And I think the other challenge is on labour hire is that, we were just talking about it before, if I'm a labour hire employee working through Allianz and I'm paid X and then I go and work through Y, and I'm paid less, you know, same job, same pay, through the labour hire company, not necessarily at the end client. And I think that's what I mean, that's what the unions are all about, right? The pattern bargaining, and so it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
How will Encore help in this situation? You must have had some thoughts about, the solutions you can provide, because it's very topical.
Yeah, it is. We're getting advice on it at the moment still, and there's all sorts of things being tossed around about getting an enterprise bargain agreement ourselves, so that.
Well, I think the government have said that the client's EBA
will take precedence, which is how it used to be in the 90s, in the 2000s. Yeah.
It's easy for them to manage, right?
Yeah.
I think the government cares. I think the government's not completely not.
We can't hear the conversation down this end if we could. Sorry, lift.
We're saying that we think the government's going to say that the EBA host employer takes precedence over anything. So if you're a law person working in there, regardless of employee yourself, that host employer's EBA, T's and C's,
and what I was saying is that potentially creates a risk, because if you're then giving your subcontractors entitlement to your EBA, then you're blurring a line between
Tough fighters in the room.
People normally tell me I don't need a microphone, I speak loud enough, but so you're blurring that line between who are your permanent members of staff and who actually aren't your staff. They're actually employed by another entity, and that then creates challenges in its own right. So it's going to be a little bit of a minefield regardless of the way that you look at it.
Chris, did you have something to say? Or?
Just semi-answer. I was going to say, surely the easy solution to what you've just mentioned on 3, 4, 5, 7 year contract, Giovanni, is simply to have an alert system within the likes of Encore, which throws these group of contractors from X and agency versus our internal have been working for X amount of time. I'm guessing that's available.
I just missed that, Chris. What was the first part?
So the question
The solution bit.
Yeah, surely the solution would be as easy as the Encore platform alerting the organisation of the time frame around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for example, if you're a government agency, you could set it for that sort of 3 years and 10 months to say, hey, these 500 contractors will be coming up on a 4-year mark. You're either going to have to bastardise their designation and make it clever, or you're going to have to offload them.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I love about today is that it's not very often that people who are tasked with the responsibility of contingent workforces are in the same room together. So even though we're going through a model here, there's an opportunity to share your experiences and ask questions that you might think you're the only one in the room that's had, but you'll find that just about everyone. And bringing that back,
Sure.
The biggest problem just about with large businesses, with multi-business units internally, is change.
Correct.
How did you go about, like different people responsible for different lots of contingent, getting them all along for the ride?
Well, so the good thing about the bespoke solution is it allows us to automate the invoice processing and automate the allocation of cost back to our cost center in one simple click of a button, and we do it every week. What that means is we're paying our suppliers almost straight away. So suppliers are happy. Therefore, they're going to favour Allianz, to bring us, the talent whenever we engage them for roles. Our stakeholders are happy because it's a lot less work for them to manage invoices.
Yep.
Because literally, we for this solution, essentially we engage Encore for two things: to loan us the technology platform and assets to our contractors, hiring managers, and ourselves and our suppliers. Mm-hmm. And secondly, to do all the messy bit in the background, to collate all the information into one nice file, to consolidate all invoices and into one, and then send it to us. So we then consume the data in the CSV file, and then literally dump it straight away into our finance, the back-end solution that we built as well, purposely for this solution, and then it will pay the invoices directly. And under this solution as well, we are treating timesheet as both timesheets and invoices, because the timesheet will go through a dual approval process by line manager and by the cost center manager who owns the costs for that contract.
So simplicity is trumping the fear of change internally?
Correct.
And you briefly mentioned suppliers there. So, and come along with me on this one. If you're a recruitment agency that feels like you own your piece of talent, and a host employer says, we want to bring all that data into a one-stop bit of technology where it can be seen, there'd be a bit of fear from there too. But you're saying because of how easy it is for them to get paid and manage everything, that...
Exactly. And another key selling point to our stakeholders is the cost, because this solution is only costing probably between 2 to 6% of your traditional offerings in the market of how we manage contingent workforce. So I'm referring to MSP or a VMS.
He's a very good negotiator, Gio.
Well, put that into some sort of figures in terms of cost savings, because you said right from the outset, one of your responsibilities was to minimise cost or get control of cost.
Correct.
What have you saved?
So, well, look, instead of spending millions, we're spending literally a fraction of it per year. So, and then we still have retained the control, directly. What I mean by that is Allianz continues paying our own suppliers directly. So Encore is nowhere on the chain of on-hire. So there's no potential tax implication or potential non-compliance with any of the applicable laws, like the anti-money laundering law, for example, because we're still doing our own thing. And our recruitment agencies are still the official employers of the contractors.
Yep. Yeah, good. So part of my job today a little bit is to play lowest common denominator, because I'm probably the least clever person in the room anyway. But for me, what you're saying is we're looking at simplicity, cost, and compliance of all things that have parlayed into what's been successful.
Exactly, because not the majority of solutions out there for contingent workforce management, they tend to be either cost effective, but don't have control, or the opposite, essentially.
So,
if I could just pipe in, I just one thing that I know that recruiters really love the agencies is that they still actually have they own their relationship with Allianz still. They're using Encore's obviously technology to streamline the process. It ticks the box for you. There's bulk approval processing, but there's recruitment agency that all fight hard to keep the business and look after you. They still have that relationship.
Exactly right, because all the relevant parties, they still retain their own ownership of whatever they normally would do, essentially.
Okay, we're 12 months plus down the track.
Correct.
So what's been the impact internally? So how are the internal stakeholders? How are your suppliers feeling about it, and how are you feeling about it as a company?
Well, the suppliers are happy because their invoices are paid almost straight away, on time. So our stakeholders are happy because approximately in terms of productivity, we save about 2,000 working hours per year.
2,000 working hours internally
at Allianz, because before the managers or the supporting teams, they had to process the invoices manually.
Yeah.
Upload, literally manually upload, press a few buttons, click for approval process, the chases as well when invoices are late. So yeah.
Amazing.
Do you guys also have your own contingent workforce that either work for themselves as part of Allianz and also who work through the Allianz contingent workforce as opposed to an agency, or is it just agency?
Just agencies, exactly. So there are three types of contractor population that we engage at Allianz. First one is the contractors of recruitment agencies. Second type is pre-identified contractors, people who we identify directly and we payroll through Encore, which is our original engagement with Encore. And the third would be statement of work contractors, so essentially individual who we engage through professional services companies like your KPMG, DXC, Tata Consulting, for example. Now, our recruitment team owns and manages the first two. Statement of work is still being managed separately by the individual businesses, which perhaps would be in the future state that we will also own that, but at the moment it's still out of scope.
Yeah, the reason why I ask it, surely there's got to be a contingent workforce plan from your side, and especially in your remit here, for you to then divert all of those contractors through an Encore platform. And surely you're also missing out on a big chunk of the talent market by not having those people who work for themselves, who don't want to subcontract through someone else and manage their invoice. That's individual invoices one by one by one. well, surely there's got to be scope there for the Encore platform to have the optimisation and invoice directly to these people so they're not having to give a cut to someone else. Like, no offence if anyone's agency here.
No. I know what you mean, Chris. I was just talking to someone about this before. This is why I talk about the day rates, is we see some situations where a contractor's getting $800 and everyone's crying for talent, but then the layer on layer on layer and being billed out at $1,400. And I was having a laugh before that we have one contractor in Perth getting paid $2,000 a day, and the agency's getting an $800 margin a day. And that person's in there as a financial consultant, probably to reduce costs. So, I agree, yeah.
Look, we're on very tight time frames. I've got Newham's cracking the whip over there. So what we're going to do is we'll see if there are any questions now. If not, what I'd like you to do is continue the discussions while you're having lunch. There are people from Encore in the room that you can chat to and ask questions. You can ask questions to Gio. And also, mate, this was Gio's first time speaking in front of people, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
So you've done well, mate. Very nervous. Yeah, very nervous. No, you did really, really well. You wouldn't have known it. And also, just I guess this is I don't want to say a shameless plug, but Encore and Allianz are finalists in the Best Vendor Solution tomorrow night at ITAs. So it already has gone through the level of judges to be considered one of the top offerings in the country at the moment. So don't be afraid to ask questions, because everybody has concerns, questions around managing their contingent labour, all right? Whether it's now or into the future, because we're all in workforce planning mode too. So please, and before we go, Damien, some last words from you.
Thank you, Gio. We've been working together now for mid-2019. It's been a great journey. It's been challenging. How did it all start? We jumped in the lift and went, how the hell are we going to do that? We all know how that goes, but thank you for your support. We've got a great working relationship. Fran and Carl and the team that service you regularly and Emily down, they just love dealing with you. So thank you very much. Our product we're still building that out. We welcome feedback. Today was more around not a show and tell, but we want to know a little bit more. To Chris's point there, we do some of the statement of work stuff already. We've got a development team in Brisbane. And as you said, Gio, future state. And I think one of the great things about working with Gio is that when you ask the question, do you know where all your contractors are? Do you know how much they cost you? Do you know if they're all compliant? He can now say yes.
Yes, exactly.
And well done to you.
No, well done.
So thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Also.
No, and you all thought you were going to come here and get a demo rammed down your throat, and you haven't. You've had a beautiful lunch. You've had some information that you can all digest and ask more questions about, and hopefully you can walk away from today saying, well, I've learnt something at the very least. Yep. So thank you.
Thanks so much for coming to our lunch today. How did you find it?
Oh, it was great. It was a good networking event. Got a lot of value out of the speakers. And it's interesting to find that, you're with like-minded people. I mean, people are experiencing similar challenges. And it's good to know that you're not the only one in the room.
Yeah, that's right. And what did you find with all the discussions that were going on today as well?
Oh, discussions were very helpful. As I said, it's interesting to find that people are experiencing the same thing as you are, and sort of bounce them off them, see where they are in their journey, and sort of take some nuggets from the day and hopefully implement it moving forward.
Is there any one thing that stands out from today?
Oh, the food was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for coming. What was the highlights for you today?
I'm interested in the model that they put forward. It's with the agencies. Our recruitment, particularly agency labour hire, is more sporadic, so how we can pull that together is something we'll discover in time, but I understand what they're trying to achieve. The bigger organisations, the Allianz, I certainly see how it's making a lot of sense. So, yeah, we'll find out from Encore how it's all going to work.
And what did you think of the food?
Love the food. The food is good. There's heaps of it.
Thank you so much. Well, hi, Chris. Thanks for coming to our lunch today.
Okay.
What were some of the highlights for you?
Highlights for me were probably asking a few difficult questions and learning a little bit more about the customisation or potentially the lack thereof customisation of the platform in this complete space. Being in the talent space, I've been in and around the contingent workforce management and workforce strategy space for a couple of decades. I know a lot of the competitive landscape, especially to you guys, globalization partners, deal, etc., etc. But owning the space and having your own proprietary software is probably the most intriguing thing for me, because then it becomes part of your own offering to clients, which a lot of people don't have. So that's probably the most intriguing thing. And then from Geo, learning a little bit about what they do in the contingent space. It's always nice to know what the BFSI arena are actually doing in and around that space. So yeah, it was just nice to hear from everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming.
You're welcome.